Atomwise was a company that was founded a few years ago here in Toronto by Dr. Abraham Heifetz, that is the man here in the picture. And the idea behind the business was to use some recent developments in machine learning to speed up the drug discovery process. So the preliminary results from the technologies were really positive. Some of the tests that in a standard laboratory setting were taking a few years could be shrunk to a few months thanks to the technology. And Abraham was really excited about this, and he went to knock at the door of essentially all the venture capital firms here in Toronto. And no one was willing to invest. They were all very positive about the technology, about the company, about the team, but somehow they wanted more validation, they wanted more result, and this was really a hard time for them. Their bank account was going down, down, and down, and eventually they decided that they had to leave. They moved to San Francisco to try to raise capital there. So in less than 6 months, they raised more than $5 million from leading VCs in the Bay Area and announced partnership projects with Harvard Medical School and other big pharmaceutical companies. So this idea of, should I leave my location? Should I relocate my company somewhere else? Should I move to Silicon Valley? Is not an uncommon question for a lot of small companies. And together with Jay Agrawal, that is a professor here at the Rotman School, we wrote a chapter in this book to try to provide some framework to think through this decision. And to write this chapter, essentially, we did two things. First of all, we read a number of studies from various literatures that try to give us insights on what are the key issues to consider in this type of location decisions. So studies in management, but studies also in economics, in geography, and sociology. But we also did our own research. So we collected more than 30 years of data of economic activities across a variety of locations in North America and tried to understand what kind of features of cities and regions are more conducive to growth, to survival, and to innovation. So with this work, we identified what we call 8 key factors. We think are factors that are important to consider in deciding where to locate your companies. Important in the sense that not considering them or mispricing them, not understanding correctly the cost and benefits related to this factor may lead to a wrong decision. So what are these factors? The first one that really resonates with the story of Atomwise is investors. We discuss a number of studies in the chapter that show how investors tend to be of different types, and it's important for companies to find the right match. And for companies like Atomwise that are specialized in very particular product and technology, it may be much easier to find the right match in places where you have an abundant presence of venture capitals like San Francisco, Boston, or New York. The second factor is customers. The question to ask is, how important is to locate my company near some particular set of customers? And the example that I have here is Whole Foods. Whole Foods was founded in Austin, near the University of Texas. And one of the things that the founders understood is that the early success of the company was driven by having a lot of customers that were university students or people with college or university degrees. And this was taken very seriously then by the company. If you look at where they expanded and how they choose their location, they really look at first indicator, the number of people with college or university degree in a 15 miles radius. The third factor is suppliers. The question to ask is, how important is to locate close to some particular type of supplier for my business? I have 2 pictures in this slide. One is Ingram Books. It is the larger distributor of books in the US. And the other one is the first office building of Amazon. And Jeff Bezos picked that location in Seattle because it was relatively close to the large distributor. He understood that that was an important source of competitive advantage for the company. The fourth factor that we identified is a labor pool. So how important is for my business to rely on a particular set of talent, and where is that this talent is more present? I have a picture here of the entrance of our computer science department here at the University of Toronto. Toronto is getting on the map for being a place where you have a lot of talented computer scientists, especially those that know the recent advances in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So this is a place for which this type of talent is quite present. But there are other type of talent, labor pools, that are not so common here in Toronto. One of them is managers that have experience in scaling up businesses. So if you're a small company and you have potential to grow and you want to hire someone that can help you with that, it's not so easy here in Toronto to find the right talent. And here at the Rotman School, we have the Creative Destruction Lab that is actually trying to address this, is bringing to Toronto people that have this experience from all over Canada and North America and Europe, and put them in as mentors to a number of startups. The fifth factor is competition. And typically in business school, we talk about competition from the industry level. In this chapter, we try to think about competition also from the geographical perspective. So who else is located in a particular place, and how is that interaction with these companies may affect my business? So here I have the picture of Kendall Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The red buildings, are the building of the MIT campus. And as you can see around there, you have essentially all the big names in tech, biotech, and pharma. So this is an extremely vibrant place in terms of entrepreneurship. But as we argue in the chapter, it's really important to understand all the costs and benefits that you may face in being located in a place like this. It's definitely beneficial in terms of you can learn, for example, a lot by interacting with people that have so much experience. On the other hand, it's also extremely competitive to find an office space, to hire someone, to retain your employees, and so on. So it's really important to understand all the dimension of competition at the local level. The sixth factor is institutions. Places are different in terms of taxation, in terms of subsidies to entrepreneurs, in terms of regulation, in terms of presence of universities, transport infrastructure. Is there a big airport that I can use to travel, and so on? And those are important things to consider too. The seventh factor is culture. And I think it's very important for international relocation decisions. And here I want to use an example from my home country, that is Italy. So most of the time when I talk with entrepreneurs that either just arrived to Italy or considering relocating to Italy, I realize that they have a very superficial understanding of the local culture. Italy, is great. There's a great art, all this art and food, but there may be a lot of other factors, that are not as visible. They may matter much, much more for your business. So it's important to do your homework. The last factor that we describe in the chapter is social networks. We are all kind of connected with other people. We have loved ones, we have friends, we have family. To move away may be costly, to move away from them. At the same time, though, in the book, we also say you have to think about your connection in terms of navigating through these other factors that we described. So, for example, you can be in Toronto where you don't have a lot of suppliers, but you may have very easy access to them through your connections. And you may take a one-way ticket to San Francisco where there may be more suppliers, but you don't have access to them. You don't have the right connection. So, like quoting Julius Caesar, it may be better to be the first in your village than to be the second in Rome sometimes. So you have to consider these things. So at the end, this exercise, I think, it helps us, thinking through this problem and realizing that there is not an optimal strategy that you want to suggest to entrepreneurs or small firms. It really depends on the specifics of the location on the company. Also, I have to say, compared to the other chapters in the book, ours is more focused on small companies, but we review a number of studies also that show that to be located in an environment that is vibrant in terms of entrepreneurship can be extremely beneficial for large companies. So this kind of factor may also affect location decision on large companies, and may also be taken into account if large firms want to try to shape their local ecosystem. Thank you.